Roasting. An art form that has been around for so long. Years have passed, and people are still getting cooked. Now roasting, it's just all fun and games. It's jokes between you and your friends. But sometimes you're the main target, and you're the only one that's getting roasted. And that's why getting roasted can be so painful sometimes. You're the only one getting fried. And it's like no matter what you do, people are going to be on your head for it. Say you're having a bad hair day. You pull up to the facility. You got like a few pieces of hair sticking up. But that doesn't matter. People are going to say you look like Alfalfa from the Little Rascals. And I'm thinking my own parents would get on my head and say this to me. And I've been roasted so much in my day-to-day life that I'm like, you know what? I just learned to embrace it at this point. People are going to roast you. It is what it is. Like 95% of the time, people are joking. But sometimes people really mean that shit. And I just sit there and think to myself, damn, my eyes really that far apart? Am I walking around looking like Sid the Sloth? And I take a good hard look at myself in the mirror. I put a ruler up to my eyes just to make sure. No, I'm just kidding. But back in the day, and even now, there are a lot of things that I still get cooked for. Now, I hated having short hair, but my parents made me get it cut really short. But there was this one time where my dad was just like, you know what? You got a garbage haircut. I don't know what the hell they did to your head. We're shaving it off. So they sat me down in the kitchen. I got a chair out of the basement and my head was completely shaved. And you can only imagine the roasts that were headed in my direction. I mean, granted, they were like elementary school roasts. My friends were just calling me Baldie as my hair follicles were non-existent. And when all my friends came over, it was so bad that I wore a hat in the pool. I wore a hat almost everywhere, and now I'm probably gonna get punished for it to this day. I'm just gonna start balding at the age of 21. But when my hair finally grew back, I had the courage to take my hat off. But of course, as you could imagine, that had a very distinct and disgusting smell. But me and my hat, you know what? We conquered the world through thick and thin. We were really locked in like that. But another thing people would get roasted for back in the day is having a crush. If you had a crush, everybody was gonna get on your head for it. People would sing a whole song just to roast you. But no matter what, the FBI would have had to confront me to get that information out of me. I wasn't telling anybody. People would try to interrogate me, and it was at the most random times too. We could have been sitting there playing Pokemon cards. You have a crush, spill the beans. I know you do. Okay, that was over dramatic. You get the point. Having a crush was a big deal. So what I did instead is I would join in on roasting the people that did have a crush. There was this one time where my friend was on the phone with his crush, and we were all in an Xbox party with him, and we played the most edgy and offensive memes that we could possibly think of, and his crush got mad and hung up the phone. Yeah, bro, we were some assholes for that, I'm not gonna lie, but it's kind of funny looking back on it. Like, look, if I was gonna get roasted, I had to participate myself from time to time. Another big thing that people would get roasted for was their hairline. And the big thing when I was like 13 was, quote, you have a McDonald's hairline. Your hairline looked like Vegeta's? Well, get ready to get cooked. And people that I went to school with or people I did sports with would do what's called, quote, a hairline check. And what this was is people would go up to you and ask to see your hairline. They would demand to see your hairline. They wanted to make sure that it wasn't a McDonald's hairline. This dude went up to me 3 times in 1 year just to make sure that my hairline didn't just magically change overnight. And oh my God, forget it. If you had a McDonald's hairline, yeah, see, I was friends with this one kid who did have one. This dude got called Ronald McDonald every day of his life. Now, thankfully, I was safe from that one. But a couple years later, there was a joke that was going around that if you were the quiet kid, you just got a strap tucked in your backpack ready to go. And I was the main target of this joke. And still to this day, I get cooked for it sometimes. I just don't really talk unless I have something of importance to say. I know I do this whole YouTube thing, but in real life, it's a lot different for me. So yeah, I've heard every school shooter joke under the sun. Guys, he's reaching in his backpack. Oh my God. And they were just expecting me to just pull out an AR-15 in GTA YouTube, not in real life. And it didn't help at all that I would wear a hoodie and I would just put my hands in my hood pocket. At that point, I was just asking to be roasted. And I had this emo ass haircut in middle school. And And of course, yeah, my fits were not up to par either. I was repping a Pokemon backpack and I wore the same Pokemon and Mario t-shirts every day. And in middle school, I was the neon kid. Like, I had every color of traffic cone that you could imagine. I would walk in and just flashbang people with how bright these damn colors were. And I would wear sweatpants that were years old, bro. They had holes in them. They were dusty as hell. And you know, I wasn't exactly a fashion connoisseur over here. Like, you could have stuck my ass on the runway with how goofy my outfits were. There was this one time I got made fun of for having a Pokemon backpack, and I cried about it all day. And even when I got off the bus and school was over, I was mad about it. I was telling my mom about it. Like, at that point, school's over. Who fucking cares anymore? So what if your Pokemon backpack got made fun of? And of course, we can't forget this one. If you get no girls, you're getting cooked. This one's really prevalent in high school and college. In my experience at middle school, nobody really cared about that. But oh my god, I got clowned beyond belief. When I was just entering college, end of high school, the whole no bitches thing became a meme. So you already know at the roast sessions, I was front and center of that one as well. And anytime I would try to say something back, all they had to do was say, you know what's crazy? I might need to find my hairline. But you need to find some bit. And everybody was on the floor dead. It was over. And where these roast sessions would take place is usually at the cafeteria table or just in a circle with your friends, either outside of school or where you're hanging out, whatever. And never do you want to be in the center of a roast circle. That's like asking to get cooked. Or sometimes people would have rap battles against each other and people in the crowd would make a beat. Crazy times, but I was not getting involved. But another thing you don't want to do is laugh. You never want to laugh because the person that's getting roasted is going to be like, I know I didn't just hear you laugh. And they're just going to start frying you. And obviously you don't want that to happen. You want them to just keep roasting each other back and forth. Getting involved sometimes is a death sentence, especially if you know that dude is good at roasting. There are a lot of times where people got on my head for laughing. So I just decided not saying anything at all was probably the best option. But if you decide to go head to head in a roast battle with somebody, these are different people that you will see in a roast battle. The dude that just takes it too far. Like, somebody could say your head looks like an egg, bro. You look like Andrew Tate. And this dude will come out of the woodworks and say, that's why your mom tragically passed away in a car crash. Like, damn, dude, you needed to bring his mom into it. What the fuck? Like, that's just too far. Like, it's just friendly banter back and forth. And at that point, the vibe is killed. That probably just hurt his feelings. So everybody's like, damn, that was fucked up. But this kid has no remorse. It doesn't matter to him. He just wants to win the roast battle. The instigator. There's always that one dude that says, personally, bro, I wouldn't take that disrespect. And they start escalating the beef between you and this other person. They're just trying to sit there, chill with a bucket of popcorn as you get torn to shreds by this other person. And now I had an instigator in my friend group. And bro, I'm not trying to get involved, so I hated when people would do this. Like, I'm just trying to be a spectator. Leave me alone. I'm trying to be on the bench. Like, if you want me to get involved so bad, bro, why don't you get involved yourself? But then there's the kid that gets violent. Like, he takes it so personally that he just decides to throw some punches. I didn't know it was that serious to the point where you had to get up and just start throwing haymakers at this random dude. Or this dude cannot handle being roasted. He needs to win somehow. And I guess he thinks him throwing punches and just beating this kid up for no reason is gonna get him the win. But in reality, it's only gonna make you look worse. It's different if it gets like very disrespectful. Obviously, I'm not letting that shit slide. But if it's something like you look like an egg, just let it go, bro. It's not that deep at all. There's always going to be the one person who gets insane information. I don't know how they get it. I don't know where they get it from. But they just happen to know everything about you. They might be watching you at night. You got to be careful. This person is your #1 stalker, so you don't want to even try going up against them in a roast battle. They just dig up the most cryptic piece of information that nobody knew about, and it's over for you. There's no coming back at that point. People will bring up that you were that one dude that pooped himself in middle school in another state, and you moved here just to avoid the embarrassment. Like, that has gotta cut deep. And then we got the dude that tries to roast you in front of the girls. There's always that guy that wants to make you the laughing stock in front of all all the girls. I'm sure a lot of people experienced this one, and oh, I for sure did. I was in college at this time, and I was in the room with a bunch of people, right? And then these two random dudes walk in. There was a few girls there, and of course, they say hi to the girls, obviously, and they start talking to them, and they want to have this crazy game. Now, I was on my phone at the home screen at this point. I put down my phone because I didn't want to be rude when they came in. And because I put my phone down, they thought I was trying to hide X-rated videos or some shit. First of all, fuck that shit. It's terrible for you. And second of all, why would I even watch it in front of people? And keep in mind, I didn't know these people at all. And they were saying like I was trying to hide a boner or some shit. And then they just walked out the room laughing and left. And they just went back to doing whatever the hell they were doing. Canon events. I've been doing a lot of scrolling as per usual, and that's how I find video ideas nowadays. I saw that a lot of people were talking about canon events, or specifically male canon events, and now people have been making videos where they put their top 10 canon events on a list. Now I thought about it and I'm like, you know what if I put mine on a list? So yeah, let's just get right into it. Number 1, fumbling a 10 out of 10. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes you just choke. There's really nothing you can do about it. One day you might be Curry from 3, and then the next you might be Curry from the moon. And now unfortunately, I've had my fair share of experiences of fumbling, and sometimes I get afraid of fumbling, and that ends up being my downfall. And to cope with the unfortunate scenario of fumbling, I may find myself doing something such as working out, or making a video, or hell, even reading a book. Literally anything to take my mind off that shit. Getting rejected, definitely one of the worst feelings on planet Earth, but eventually, the more you get rejected, the more you'll be able to just take the L on the chin and walk away, and not really think about it that much later. Hey, I mean, it's a learning experience, so we all gotta go through it eventually. That's the type of shit that will build crazy character development. Next, we got the day you realize you are not going pro. A lot of people growing up have ambitions of being a professional athlete, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, whatever. And as you get older and go into high school, people will start getting offers from crazy ass Division I or Ivy League schools, and then you're over there with nothing. 0 offers. Like, that's gotta be one of the most painful feelings of all time. I mean, for me, I realized that when I was in middle school. Like, I just got benched every fucking day of baseball, and I knew at that moment, maybe it's time for me to hang up the hat with baseball. Maybe it's time for me to retire. So in 2018, I officially hung up the hat with baseball. And as sad as it is, sometimes you gotta move on. I've been playing baseball for 8 years of my life at that point. After you realize you gotta hang up the hat, you just gotta accept it, bro. You just gotta accept that it's over. You are no longer a starter on the football team. Some people don't let that go, which is kind of crazy. Like, come on, bro. You gotta let it go at some point. Number 3, we got getting embarrassed in front of a large crowd. I don't care what anybody says. There is no stronger canon event than public embarrassment. And once I experienced this, I was a changed man. And the first time I experienced this is exactly when I started caring too much about what people thought of me. Obviously, you should care to some extent, but obviously you should not let it control you. And the first time this happened to me, this is around the time roast battles became popular. Everyone was roasting each other. And then I didn't even say anything. I was just laughing. And they pointed at me like, bro, why are you laughing? You haven't said a word this entire lunch period. And then the table started laughing. Everybody at the table, this is a big ass lunch table, by the way. And I was fighting back tears, okay? I was trying to hold in the tears, but I knew it was true. So at the time, it cut deep, even though really shouldn't have. It's not serious. It was a roast battle. But then again, I was 12 years old, so I thought my life was over. And if you're somebody that has social anxiety, you're definitely going to be terrified of this. I was somebody that would let these moments live in my head rent-free. I would think about it all the time. But when you remember, it's really not that deep. Everyone's going to forget about it. Eventually, you just let it go. And life just becomes a lot better. Now we got getting a bad haircut. I think everyone's gotten a bad haircut at least once in their life. And if you didn't, well, I guess you're just really lucky. That's why you gotta find somebody to cut your hair like every single time. You just can't get a random barber because you don't know if they're gonna mess it up. If you don't have a barber or stylist that you're locked in with, yeah, dog, it's like playing Russian roulette with your hair. You don't know who is gonna cut your hair. You don't know if they're even qualified to cut hair. This might be their first day on the job, and you may walk out of there bald. I don't know. Most likely not, but you get the point. And during this bad cut era, your social life just gets hit with a huge nerf. Your friends are probably gonna roast you. You're gonna be sentenced to 2 months with no female interaction. It's over. I don't know if we were just born for this cutscene to be installed into our life, but literally everybody goes through this for some reason. Like, so many of my friends have gotten such terrible cuts to the point where they had to restart. Any confidence you had at that point, it gets completely stripped until your hair grows back. Then we got number 5, discovering insane family lore. There's nothing like finally getting to that age where you start to find out and understand the family lore. And I was just a dumbass kid on his iPad in like the early 2010s, but now I'm tapped into the family lore. I know what's going on. And now most of the lore in the Duckalo family is good lore. Like, I don't think we really have bad lore at all, to be honest. But sometimes there's a little bit of beef that goes down, and I don't know, it just happens in every family, to be honest. But then don't even get me started on that old photo book. Every family has one, and then you open it, you'll start seeing pictures from like the 1960s, and it just blows my mind finding out about people that I didn't even know existed. And it really does interest me sometimes looking back at old photos of my family. Like, it is kind of cool to understand and discover the lore of the Duckalo family. Now, if it's bad lore in the family, you'll look at the family members completely different after. And next we have getting roasted for being fat or skinny. One point in my life, Oreo Cakesters was my go-to gas station snack. I was like 100 pounds in the 3rd grade, which is kind of crazy. And by 5th, 6th grade, I lost the rest of the weight, and I was very skinny until I started going to the gym in 2022. And I actually put on a little bit of muscle. I mean, I'm not skin and bones anymore, but I still got some work to do, obviously. But sometimes that one dude that gets roasted for being fat in the friend group, he'll come back and just turn his life around completely. He'll have the glow up of the century, and he'll just come back a new person. Like, it's pretty much like the Nick Avocado transformation all over again. And this really skinny dudes out there, they're sick of being compared to the SpongeBob photo, so they hit this legendary gym arc and they never look back. Then a couple years later, they're benching 300 pounds like it's nothing. And speaking of working out, everybody has at least searched this video once. How to get abs in 5 minutes. Everybody's done it. I don't care who you are. I know in my Oreo Cakester days, I definitely did this for sure, because I wanted to get abs in 5 minutes. I was too lazy to put in the work and get them. It had to happen. I needed to get them before the pool party I was going to, or whatever it was. And the amount of minutes I wasted watching these videos was insane. But then you start to realize, okay, there's no shortcuts to getting ripped. You gotta put in the work. You gotta work out pretty consistently. Back then, I just had to realize there was no way around the gym. If it was that easy, you could just get them in 5 minutes. We would all have abs. And now we got the first all-nighter. Some of you probably have never pulled an all-nighter in your life, and some of you are like, I pull all-nighters all the time. And if you do, go to sleep, all right? Your body needs it. Now, my first all-nighter was when I was in high school. I think it was in like 2020. I stayed up all night watching YouTube videos, and then I just slept during my Zoom classes. I think I talked about this in my quarantine video already, but I remember it was just me and the teacher in one of my classes, and it was probably one of the most awkward moments in my life. But whether you played video games all night or whatever you decided to do, pulling an all-nighter was something that we all had to experience at one point or another. And of course, I would get that feeling of nervousness because I know if my parents walked into my room and saw me up at 4 in the morning, they would have been pissed. And I wouldn't have been able to play Xbox with my friends at the time. And this definitely played a part in my garbage sleep schedule, because sometimes I'm going to bed at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. It's bad. But once I get older, I'll definitely develop a more consistent sleeping schedule. And now we got running away from home, or running away in air quotes. We've all done it or thought about doing it. I walked about halfway down my neighborhood and I realized I was gonna miss all the dino nuggets, so I needed to come back. But every time I would come back, I felt like that one ant with the bindle, and obviously my parents were responsible for me, so they had to let me inside. They had to deal with my stupid ass shenanigans all day. I really don't know why I thought running away was gonna solve all my problems. Shit gets hard. It happens. Responsibilities pop up, and it was gonna be even worse if I left the house. I don't even remember the reasoning as to why I quote-unquote ran away. Like, okay, bro, no one's running away. Now we got your first job. Okay, this is at least top 5. There's no way. Everybody has had that one job that's just absolute trash. And my first job was at a supermarket around the time of the pandemic. And I was trying to make the most of it, talk to coworkers whenever I could. I worked with some of my friends, which is cool, but I barely got to talk to them because the managers would get on my head every time I would, even though there was like not a single soul in the store. And a lot of times I had to deal with bitchy customers, and some people like customer service jobs, and you know what? If that's for you, then I guess go for it. But that shit was definitely not me. That's all I'm gonna say. I dipped as soon as I could. Now we got the feeling of being behind in life. The classic, damn, I'm wasting my life realization will just hit you like a truck sometimes. A lot of times, I spend too much time making YouTube videos, okay? I will admit that. So I had to just go enjoy my life a little bit. The past few months, I took a break from Burdie, so I had to go travel a little bit, hang out with friends more, and just really enjoy what life had to offer. And sometimes when you think you're wasting your life, then you'll realize you're behind. Like, there's already 18-year-olds getting drafted into the NBA. Like, ref, do something. Like, what the hell's going on? But yeah, definitely a wake-up call for sure. For me, especially. To just get my shit together and start improving. But yeah, jokes aside, obviously not everybody's got to be a professional athlete. You just got to make the best out of your life and just work hard and just keep improving every day. And by working hard, I do not mean doing some stupid ass stunt on TikTok for views. Because for whatever reason, there's some people out there resorting to that option. I mean actually grinding towards whatever you want your dream career to be. When you think of the most annoying place to go, you may think of work, school, a fucking porta potty, I don't know. But honestly, what I think beats all three of those places combined as the worst place to ever exist, the airport. It's really something. The airport is one of those things, it's like, well, you kind of have to be here. You know, you got to travel, you got places to go. Well, you got to go to an airport, unfortunately. And I travel a lot for business purposes, so I figured this would be a good video. Where the hell do I even begin? When I get there, first of all, it's usually 6 a.m. in the morning, so I am dead tired, and I got a day of waiting in lines ahead of me. And for people who bring bags bigger than the carry-on size, they gotta wait in a line where they drop off their bag and pay $150 to get it on the flight. And that's why every time I travel, I just bring a carry-on bag. I don't even bother. Because the last time I did that, the line was like 20 minutes long, and I almost missed my flight, so I'm not doing that again. And they are taxing like crazy with $150. I'm not paying that much, bro. Hell nah. And then I immediately head over to the security line, because apparently the security lines are bigger than the lines at Disney. What the fuck? And sometimes it's just a ghost town. Why the hell is it packed on some days, and some days it's just a complete ghost town? I don't get it. So depending on what time I show up, you know, I'm kind of gambling whether or not I miss my flight. And, you know, of course, when I'm standing there drowsy as hell, you know, the carpet's not looking too bad. And of course, when I'm waiting in this line, everybody is sick. I don't know why everybody happens to be sick at an airport, but I always end up getting sick because of it. There's people coughing all over the place, sneezing. Some people even were hucking up mucus like it was bad. And if you're sick and you gotta go somewhere, well, that's out of your control. But some people just don't even bother covering their mouth at all. They make sure the spit gets all over people's faces. Okay, that sounded kind of wrong. Well, you know what I mean, though. And whatever rare disease it is I get from the airport, that shit lasts for an entire month. And I'm like taking medicine, using cough drops. Like, I'm doing everything in my power to get rid of this sickness, but it just doesn't go away. But when I finally get through this line, I am overjoyed at the fact that it's over. It's my turn to put my luggage through and step through the metal detector. And one time I stepped through the metal detector. I stood there for a few seconds, so I'm like, okay, maybe they got something to say to me. And they said nothing, so I'm like, okay, I'm probably good. I kid you not, I move one step forward, and this dude just yells at me, "Hey! Wait!" At this point, the whole airport was looking at me. They're looking at me like I'm some kind of delinquent or some shit. But 3 security guards bring me to the side and they start patting me down. I had nothing in my pockets, by the way. I don't understand what I could have possibly had that led to that happening. I don't know. Then I gotta wait for my bags and stuff to go through. And half the time they gotta go through all the zippers in my backpack. And the reason why they do this is people have brought some weird ass shit to the airport. So every time somebody has like a thing of toothpaste in there, a water bottle, or anything, they have to throw it out. But that shit's annoying. But then finally I can go to my gate. You know, I can at least sit down and wait for my flight in peace. And before it's time for me to board the flight, you know, I gotta get some snacks, get some eats. And that's hella expensive. I don't know why airport food is so expensive. What is so special about food and drinks just because they're in an airport? But after that, you know, I board. I get on a yellow plane that says Spirit. And then I inevitably fly to my okay, I'm just just kidding. I don't fly Spirit Airlines. Sometimes when I'm about to board, like we're locked in, 5 minutes left, they just say, you know what? Your flight's delayed for 2 hours. And at this point, I would have rather flew Spirit. You know, all that turbulence is ass, but you know what? I would have rather put up with that than a 2-hour delay. Oh, wait, actually, now it's 4 hours. An hour later, now it's 5 and then 6. I kid you not. Yes, my flight has been delayed for 6 hours. One time it was delayed for 10, 12 hours. Usually the holdup is due to weather or like a shitty aircraft. And of course, it sucks ass because I don't want to spend my entire day in the airport. Nobody does. But after 6 hours, I finally get on this flight. You know, after so long, through all the trials and tribulations, we did it. The flight is right in front of my eyes. I sit down. Immediately, a kid starts crying. I can't even just shut my eyes and go to sleep for 1 second. Like, we didn't even take off yet. Then there was somebody else behind me who gave their kid an iPad. You know, they were sitting there watching brain rot. I don't know what the hell they were watching, but all I know is I just kept hearing a slip sound effect over and over again. And this kid had his iPad at max volume. Dog, get some headphones. Holy shit. Now everybody's got to sit here and listen to these brain rot shorts for the entire flight. There was no words in these shorts. Nope, just straight sound effects. But I honestly can't speak about entertainment considering I watched Annoying Orange and MLG videos when I was a kid. That was like the first generation of brain rot right there. But usually the takeoff and all that goes pretty smoothly for me. But there was one particular instance where I sat down in a seat and I had no clue what I signed myself up for. The flight attendant came up to me and said, in the event of an emergency, will you be able to assist people getting off the plane? I'm like, yeah, definitely. And in my head, I'm like, what the fuck did I just sign myself up for? There's no way I'm gonna be able to help people get off the plane, bro. I'm stupid as fuck, bro. I probably wouldn't be able to work the life vest thing that they give you. This was like one of my first times like traveling by myself, and I had no idea. But if you sit in like the emergency exit row, in the event of emergency, you gotta be locked in helping people get off the plane. So keep in mind, every time there was just slightly a little bit of turbulence, I would fucking shit myself. I'm like, oh fuck, are we going down? Are we going? In any emergency scenario, all rational thinking just goes out the window for me. But usually besides that, you know, takeoff goes pretty smoothly, but I don't really pay attention to like who I sit next to or anything of that nature. But sometimes people sit next to like the worst possible people on a plane. And the number one candidate that you definitely want to stay away from is a nauseous person. And now keep in mind, you're already covered in the grime and grease that lurks the airport. And now you could possibly be covered in throw up. The guy who's sick. All right, listen, I'm sometimes this guy. I'm just gonna be 100% honest. But if I am sick on a plane, I always bring shit to help relieve my cough or whatever it is that I have. Because me coughing the entire flight would definitely piss everybody off. So I'm definitely not trying to do that. And let alone if I'm sitting next to somebody that is sick, I don't want to get sick myself, bro. Now we can't forget the person that's kicking seats. All right, if you sit in front of this person, it's over. The entire flight, you're gonna have to deal with a kid that's off like 5 Monster Energies that just loves kicking your seat. Seriously, what is the purpose? I've never understood. Why the fuck are you kicking seats, bro? I don't get it. And lastly, we have the yapper. Like, bro, just shut the fuck. Like, I'm trying to sleep, dude. Relax. Like, I don't need all this yap in my ear right now. Like, I really gotta invest in some AirPod Maxes right now. They got that noise cancellation, so I don't have to listen to that bullshit. Like, I think the entire plane can hear you talking about your goddamn yoga class or whatever bullshit. Please talk quietly or just shut up. Usually I like to sleep on the planes, but if there's any of those people in my proximity, unfortunately I will not be getting rest today. But if there is any experience that pisses me off the most, it has gotta be this one. There was one time where I had a 5 a.m. flight and I was trying to sleep and I heard a dog barking for almost the entire flight. And of course I was like a couple seats away. Like I couldn't even be further away. But yeah, bro, eventually I gotta go and use the airplane bathroom. I don't know what it is, bro, but every time I step foot in the airplane bathroom, there just happens to be a shit ton of turbulence. And I'm fucking pissing all over the wall and shit. My aim is similar to that of a stormtrooper. And it's just embarrassing, you know, because as a grown man, I shouldn't be missing the damn toilet bowl. That shit's embarrassing. But I seem to also have the worst luck with my timing because before I walk in there, sometimes somebody just has to drop a fat dump and then I'm greeted with that smell. smell. And sometimes there's airlines that don't even bother cleaning the bathroom. You could just imagine the foul atrocities in that bathroom. The days worth of stench that the bathroom is collecting. Then I sit back down and I try to sleep, and I don't understand why the flight goes by so goddamn slow. Like, if I sit down for 6 hours and I'm working for like the entire day, but if I'm sitting there rotting away in my chair watching YouTube or Netflix, that shit goes by so fucking slow. And could that shit go by any faster? Like, goddamn. But after a grueling 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever the elapsed time is, the flight is over. I get off the plane and I'm thinking it's over. Finally, a long day of traveling is almost done. I just gotta get back to the Airbnb I'm at. But no. One more thing, unfortunately. Baggage claim. Baggage claim is a roulette, all right? It's hit or miss. You either get your bag in 10 minutes and you're out, or you're standing there for an entire hour waiting for other flights' bags to empty out. There was one time I was getting off a flight at 11 p.m. I stood at baggage claim for an hour and a half. I've never been so pissed off in my entire life. And they usually have different belts open to where they could start distributing bags. They only had one belt open. So you could just imagine how long that shit took. But eventually they finally opened up a new belt and they started putting our bags in after an hour and a half, hour, 15 minutes. And that's just the first step, all right? There is a lot more stresses that come with traveling, unfortunately. Like renting a car and hoping to God you don't get a flat tire so you don't have to pay $500 and $300 for it to get towed, and then you also don't get a refund, and then you also have to rent a new car. Yeah, that shit is a pain in the ass. Roommates, the biggest hit or miss ever. Whoever it is out there in this universe that eventually ends up being your roommate, you gotta hope by some miracle that you're able to live together. Like, for example, my roommate keeps his room a fucking biohazard. Obviously, I'm gonna want him to clean that shit. If it's looking like Asmongold's room, bro, it's time to get the vacuum and clean it up. No more excuses. And a lot of people's first experience with roommates is when they go off to college. And well, that was mine too. And I didn't really get bad roommates per se. You know, it was just sometimes living with other people, shit bothered me, all right? You know, everybody's on like different schedules. And I'm that one person that's always up super late working. You know, that's me. But some of my roommates went to bed at like 10 p.m. So obviously that was not gonna work out for me. I was gonna have to just grind my schoolwork in the dark. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them. They had to get up mad early. But me, I was able to sleep till like 10 or 11 on some days. And of course, since I wasn't even able to pick my schedule my first semester, so a few of the days throughout the week, I had an 8 a.m. class in the morning. And if you're a college student, you know 8 a.m. classes are garbage. Unless you're really up that early in the morning. Some of my roommates had to get up at 6 a.m. like I said. And there was 4 of us in this room, including my brother. So I was just waking up to alarms left and right before I even had to get up. And one of my roommates, his alarm sounded like a fucking fire alarm was going off. It would just absolutely scare the lights out of me every morning. And my alarm's like the iPhone radar noise, and that already pisses me off to begin with. Like, I want to smash my phone with a hammer every time I hear it. And I was not getting quality rest either. It's not like I was sleeping on a soft Tempur-Pedic memory foam mattress. No, I was sleeping on a mattress or what felt to be a stone slab. The mattress was old as hell, just completely worn out. That shit's clearly seen better days. And my school was not cheap at all, bro. It was an arm and a leg for tuition, and I had to pay even more on top of that for room and board. And my parents told me I had to enjoy the college experience, but honestly, I could have went without that part. Now, on the first day I was there, you know, my roommate met this girl, obviously, and they were together like the entire time I was rooming with him, which was for like a year. And sometimes, yeah, it kind of just made shit awkward. The fact that we didn't have our own space, like we were just all in the same space, because sometimes I would hear them arguing, or when I was trying to sleep, like I'd hear them talking about some random bullshit, I don't know. Or they'd like watch a movie or something and the TV light was just blaring in my face. And yeah, sometimes I'd walk into the room and yeah, they would just be making out. It was very awkward. Like, it just made shit worse that we didn't have our own space. Like, that was just bound to happen. It was just gonna cause a bunch of awkward moments. And you know, sometimes when I wasn't looking, yeah, sometimes they would make out when I was present in the room. And I'm like, all right, bro, I gotta get the hell out of here. This is just awkward as shit. So I'll just book it out of the room and go get food or something. And by time the end of the year hit, I just decided I'm just gonna live at home. Especially if I have to record videos. Imagine recording videos in a dorm. Like, that's just awkward, bro. A bunch of people can hear. The walls are so thin. Like, it would have just sounded like I was like a deranged lunatic just talking to myself about stupid ass stories I experienced. Or whatever else I was talking about at that point. Like, I would have been whispering into the mic and shit. I would have sounded like I was like the next up and coming ASMR creator. Like, it would not have been good. You know, I was trying my hardest not to be a nuisance for my roommates, so it could at least be a somewhat decent living experience. But of course, unluckily for me, all 3 of my roommates were messy, including my brother. And of course, I would have to do a lot of the cleaning. The trash would just be straight up overflowing sometimes, and more trash would end up on the floor than the actual trash can. Okay, it wasn't that bad. I'm just glad we did not have a kitchen in our room. Thank God. Otherwise, my ass would have been the one stuck doing dishes. That's just what was gonna happen. Because, I don't know, just living in a messy space just pisses me off. I don't know why. I like everything to be somewhat clean. I would have to vacuum the damn floors and shit when no one else was in the room. Like, we all each had our individual corners of the room. And, of course, my brother, the duck, does not give a fuck about his room being messy. So, obviously, his corner of the room was gonna be really messy. A huge pile of dirty clothes on the floor, crumbs scattered everywhere. And as twin brothers, I mean, we literally agree on everything except this. But obviously, when I tell his ass he's gotta step up and clean, he'll help me clean. He just doesn't care about living in a messy environment. And while speaking of a messy environment, you know, we basically had a bunch of bugs and shit living in the room with us. Like, we had ants. We had a whole hornet's nest I didn't even know about. Like, they were just staying there rent-free. It was like every time I'd get back from class, I'd see like a bunch of dead hornets on the windowsill. And I was like, what the hell is going on, bro? So I put in a work order because, well, I cannot live with hornets. Like, I'm not trying to go to sleep at night and just have a million hornet stings when I wake up. But thankfully, that did not happen. After like a week, they finally pulled up and got rid of the hornet's nest. So yeah, just living in a college dorm in general is fucking shit. I mean, it's not even my roommate's fault, to be honest. Like, the living experience was just garbage. It was just mad awkward not having our own space. And we had to share a bathroom with the entire floor, which was just so stupid. Like, it was just bound to be a mess. There was bound to be puke in the showers, boogers on the stall or whatever. And there was a bunch of hair in the sinks too, and the shower drains. I'm like, all right, bro. Like, the janitor is not getting paid enough to clean this shit. This is bad. And sometimes the trash was just overflowing in the bathroom too. Because people just decided instead of throwing out all their takeout boxes in their own rooms, they just used the bathroom as a trash station. And even just the amount of awkward experiences I've had when people try to talk to me while I'm like taking a shit or in the shower is just unbearable. So I would have to just try to go when nobody else is there. Honestly, my roommates weren't that bad, but nah, my floor mates were absolutely terrible. Now see, most people on my floor were chill, but I had some people that just really pissed me off. I genuinely don't know how this happened. Or actually, I do know how this happened. He was drunk as hell. But one time at 3 in the morning, this drunk kid put a bag of popcorn in the microwave. He just let this bag of popcorn catch fire. Like, he just completely forgot about it. So yeah, the microwaves are like really janky and old, and like when you did it, you had to set it to like 30 minutes every single time. Like, you didn't have a choice. So you'd have to keep an eye on whatever it was in the microwave. And you know, you really don't need that many brain cells operating to remember that. But clearly this kid was not on Earth with us. He was on another planet. He just let this bag of popcorn catch fire. The fire alarm went off. And at first I thought it was my roommate's Amber Alert ass alarm. And I'm like, already? Jesus. And I checked the time and I'm like, it's 3 in the morning. What is happening right now? And then all delirious, I realize it's the fire alarm. Every single kid in that building got their sleep interrupted because some kid decided to put popcorn in the microwave and forget about it. And at this point, we were in like January, so it was freezing cold out. And everybody was confused at what just happened. And eventually I found out because like some kids were just talking about it in class. Now, some people on my floor were wannabe TikTokers, all right? They wanted to be the next up-and-coming TikTok stars. And there happened to be this trend where people would knock on doors and play the song called Die Young by Kesha. And they would play the song on a boombox. And right when it said, I hear your heartbeat to the beat of the drums, however it goes, they just start banging banging on the door. And I was like, what just happened? Like, did somebody just get assaulted outside of my dorm room? Like, I was trying to speed run work that was due tomorrow. And out of nowhere, I just heard this excessive banging on my door. And I'm just gonna assume that it was the same people, probably, that left an empty box of waffles at my door, followed by a note that reads, "You deserve this. We love you guys." I was just like, okay, this has got to be like some alternate timeline. This has got to be like a fever dream. Like, this whole year that happened in my life did not feel like a real event that transpired. And a lot of my floor mates loved blasting music at like 7 in the morning. I don't know why. I don't know why they had to put music on at 7 a.m., but they did. One of my roommates was blasting Dub by Yeet at 7 in the morning. And you know what? I was hyped that day. That shit got me up. You know what? That was a good start to the day. I'm getting up. But sometimes I'd hear country music and I'm like, all right, bro, just turn that shit off ASAP. You know, if you like country music, that's all you, bro. That's just personally not me. I'm not trying to hear about tractors and wagons at 7 in the morning. And you know, for the most part, it was manageable. It would annoy me a little bit, except for this one time. So this kid on our floor invited somebody from another school, and him and this other kid went through our floor and a bunch of other people's floors to see if their doors were unlocked to try to hit a lick on random shit just lying around in people's rooms. And usually we did not keep our door locked, which was really bad. Like, I don't know how the hell we survived. And these two kids just bursted the door down, and luckily my roommate and his girlfriend were there. Otherwise, all our shit would have got finessed. And they were about to go take something off my desk, and they were like, yo, what are you doing here? And then they just dipped out of the room, and the door was locked for the rest of that night. I just decided, you know what? I have shit to do in the morning. I don't want bro to attempt that shit again. I'm going home. And my roommate said he was holding down the fort for that night. And they ended up stealing other people's shit because they weren't in their room at all, and the door was open. And they ended up taking a bunch of stuff, so the school obviously made a big deal about all of this. And whoever it was, the kid that was stealing shit was about to get expelled, so they had to call all of us as like witnesses, and they asked us about the situation because he was one of the only people that ended up seeing the kid trying to steal stuff. And what happened was we got called down to the main office, and like one of the deans of our school was talking to us and basically asked us what happened in a nutshell. And we just explained it to him, and then he asked my roommate what the kid looked like, and I guess he gave like a brief description of him. And you know, now that I think about it, I think I kind of knew who the kid was. Like, I've seen him before, but I didn't know him by name. And after he talked to us and a few more groups, eventually he found out who the kid was, and his ass got expelled, deservingly. As for my roommates and other floor mates, they were fine. You know, it wasn't the end of the world, except for that dude that tried to steal shit.